This one fat loss exercise hits the sweet spot on so many levels. It is the easiest way to burn maximum calories for the average desk worker. You won't feel ravenously hungry after it, so you can make choices your future self will thank you for. It can be doubled with most typical activities in modern life for a 2-for-1 benefit. But it is also the most overlooked exercise because if you're anything like me, beliefs about what it takes to lose fat get in the way. So first, you too need to break these beliefs. And my journey to realizing how wrong I was will show you the traps you too may be falling into. So let's rewind and dive in. Back in 2012, I thought I had the perfect exercise routine. Routine 1. YouTube told me I needed to lift weights to build muscle, but it also confused the heck out of me on how to do it. Should I be lifting light or heavy weights as a beginner? Could I lift too much weight such that I'd look big and bulky? What's the deal with this split routine versus full body thing? Every YouTuber seemed to have a different answer. I didn't want to spend my precious 4 free hours after work reading dry exercise science. So I hired a personal trainer for twice-a-week sessions and called it good. Routine 2 came about when my trainer told me that I should be doing cardio outside of our sessions. I was like, okay, what's the best cardio for fat loss? To which he replied, HIIT. I did a quick search and found an ad for Insanity. Wow, these people look good even while panting on the floor like a Saint Bernard in 100-degree weather. And I was like, yes, I want it. And the fact that these fit people found Insanity super hard weirdly made me want to do it more. Anywho, I felt I was on the right track. Until 7 weeks in. My sessions with my personal trainer would scare the crap out of me. Literally. The thought of what I'd be putting my body through for the next hour had me running for the bathroom 15 minutes before every single session. On top of that, all the Insanity burpees, jack push-ups, and whatever that exercise is where you do ski jumps while in plank position had banged up my knees so bad that 5 minutes of walking downhill would flare up awful outer knee pain. A big problem in Seattle. And I don't own a car. This was my breaking point. I could not go on like this. I figured my problem was I needed to 1. Do lower impact exercises, and 2. Do exercises I actually enjoyed and not just because they were the best cardio for fat loss. Good job identifying what to do past me. Not so good a job picking the right replacement exercises though. Starting from the top. Whenever I crossed the 520 on way to work, I'd watch people rowing crew across Lake Washington. They looked so elegant, so synchronized, so serene, gliding across the water. I thought, yeah, I'd love some elegant serenity in my life. Wrong. Every person who knows anything about rowing crew has had one of 3 reactions when I told them I joined crew for peace and ease. Okay. Rowing crew is like Fight Club, except you can tell people about it. And no one dies, or even gets seriously injured. Okay, it's nothing like Fight Club, but it's intense, okay? I thought waking up at 6 a.m. for my personal training sessions was bad, until I had to wake up at 4 a.m. for rowing crew. And this being Seattle, half the time it was way too windy and rainy for us to make it to water. So instead, we'd spend an hour doing erg competitions that made me confuse my legs for noodles. On top of that, I did not know this, but apparently it's normal for people to show up outside of the official rowing times to get extra training in. I didn't want to spend even more time exercising than the twice-a-week rowing sessions, but also felt like I was letting my crewmates down. So a few months in, I quit. I added the criteria of no team sports and moved on to yoga. Serene, peaceful. Yes? Yes, it was. But after Insanity, bowel clearing personal training sessions, and the cult of rowing crew, yoga felt too easy. Does this even work? Suspicious of yoga, I moved on to swimming. I had absolutely loved swimming growing up and figured that was the jackpot answer to my exercise dilemma. Turns out I had forgotten to factor in that I am an adult now with an adult schedule. Who has the time to take a shower before and after swimming? Not to mention that while growing up in tropical Indonesia, it was a refreshing plunge in balmy 90 degrees. In Seattle, it was more from going cold to more cold. And then to put on my 4 layers of clothing while still drying from my after shower? Come on. Defeated, I went back to what had worked for me before. HIIT, but I swapped Insanity for 20-minute low-impact YouTube videos 4 times a week, and I reduced my time with my trainer to 30-minute sessions so I could be less terrified before every session. This was more palatable, but I still didn't really enjoy most of it. Not to mention, my hunger after these sessions was through the roof. I'd often end up overeating, causing my weight to go up or stall even though I was putting in so much effort day to day. And then I also stopped getting stronger in the gym. I felt totally stuck. And you know what's the crazy thing? I thought my problem was I hated exercise, or even the ones I liked, I felt took up too much time. I thought my problem was tactical. Turns out my problem was up here. I couldn't find a way out because of how I saw exercise, fat loss, and their relationship to my life as a whole. This all changed when I was faced with my mortality on a flight to Boston. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Numerous doctor checkups later, they couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was a splash of cold water. Overnight, I didn't see fat loss and exercise as separate things from my normal life. Deadlines and timeframes for fat loss stopped mattering to me. So my exercise criteria list changed to sustainable exercises only. As in, I don't care about optimizing for most fat loss for every minute spent. No more exercises that take up huge chunks of time in my schedule. I stopped deluding myself that new hour-long chunks of exercise would be something I could do consistently. No more exercises that rev up my hunger. 80% of weight loss is nutrition, so I figured doing no exercise is better than exercising only to later overeat. What was the exercise this boiled down to? Walking. Now, if you're thinking, no way is this enough for fat loss, or that's boring, stop. I am proof you can do this for fat loss. Okay, note, I'm not talking about muscle gain, which by the way, isn't your bottleneck anyway until you get down to a leaner body fat percentage. So how did this break down for me? Until I reached 30% body fat, which is equivalent to 20% body fat for men, I did this. One, I got my baseline for daily steps. Turns out, despite not owning a car and taking the bus everywhere, I at most got 3,000 to 4,000 steps daily on average. Yikes. Second, I added only 1,000 steps more for the next 3 weeks as a goal. 3 weeks because I wanted to make sure that the habit had become part of my lifestyle and not a separate special thing I did because history told me anything allocated to special time won't last. So how did I make it a part of my lifestyle? Any one-on-one meetings with a coworker, I switched to being walking meetings. I switched some of my hangouts with friends from dining out to walking first, then dining out. I read an article that the most productive people take a 17-minute break for every 52 minutes of work on average. So I installed an app that takes over my entire screen every 55 minutes, which is enough friction to cause me to stop and walk around my office. Then at end of 3 weeks, I again noted my baseline after incorporating these lifestyle tweaks and repeated step 2 until I was at about 10,000 daily steps on average. I didn't aim to literally meet 10,000 steps each day because life isn't 100% consistent. On the other hand, average is a lot more doable because I naturally walk more on weekends than weekdays. By the time I got to 30% body fat, I was easily averaging 10,000 to 15,000 steps. Then between 25 to 30% body fat, which is equal to 15 to 20% for men, I added 20 minutes of can't sing or 10 minutes of can't talk walking intensity to 5 days a week. This was fairly easy to accomplish in Seattle as it has a lot of hills and staircases. I would also sometimes carry a backpack that's about 10% or less of my body weight. It was only when I got to 25% body fat and my focus shifted from only fat loss to fat loss and muscle gain that I added any resistance training on top of my walks. And here's the awesome, crazy part. While within the scope of fat loss, walking is the only exercise I needed. But when I expand the scope to my whole life, walking is so much more. It opened up opportunities I hadn't even thought of. Day hikes to astonishing places inaccessible any other way. Week-long treks through the mountains in Italy, month-long treks across the beautiful Camino de Santiago. By the way, if you're curious, I've linked in the description my training plan for walking. It feels awesome to use my body to walk the off-the-beaten paths of the world, and add doing it with friends, and it is perfection. Those long weeks spent together walking, talking, bonding, there's nothing quite like it in life. And I never would have figured this out, my dream life, if it weren't for letting go of false beliefs like no pain, no gain, and all or nothing mindsets, and realizing what's the best and sustainable exercise for fat loss for me, and I think for most of us, is walking. If you love this approach of putting sustainability over ego, then you have 2 options. 1, if you'd love to work with me, then check out the free sneak peek to my Badass Body Blast program in the comments and description below. Or 2, if you want to DIY it, then you don't want to ignore this video, which shows you also what I did for nutrition to get to 20% body fat. It will stop you from doing the right things at the wrong time. The #1 way I have seen people waste their time and energy. Check it out now. And always remember, you can do it.